And joining us live in studio is Nwora Okonkwo, legal expert, Palesa Mpampa, legal and advisory manager with People Opposing Women Abuse, and Golden Miles Budu is the national spokesperson of the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. They join us on the phone line. Good evening to all our guests, and thank you so much for your time. We'll start with you, Mr. Okonkwo. The debate being around whether it's nurture or nature as to why we have such high levels of brutality against women, especially in this Cameron Wilson case, where he didn't show remorse. As a matter of fact, seemed ecstatic on the judgment when it was handed down.
Yeah, whether you want to look at nurture or nature, the law is what the law is. I do not believe that circumstantially or whether mitigating circumstances surrounding Wilson's action should be placed or laid emphasis on circumstances surrounding his background or where he comes from. A lot of people, even the judge, Chantal Fortune, even made that statement in his ruling, that in as much as a lot of people come from such disadvantaged socioeconomic background, they have not all ended up being murderers. Therefore, judgment has to be served based on the heinous crime he committed. So a lot of people come from disadvantaged backgrounds, social ills, abuse, and yet have turned out to be influential, iconic images. So it doesn't cut the eyes that you come from a disadvantaged background.
I mean, we don't know the profile, I suppose, or maybe psychological profile, what drives certain people to kill. But we take your calls on 011-542-2186. You're also welcome to join us on social media. Let's invite Mr. Golden Miles Budu, national spokesperson of the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. And just looking at the correctional services approach, that of being more rehabilitation environment as opposed to that of solely punishment for crimes. In the case of Cameron Wilson, he is no stranger to law enforcement and authorities, or even crime for that matter. Would you say that this approach is failing in certain parts?
Well, the approach was, in fact, never attempted to be turned around. The only thing that happened, the name was changed from prison department to correctional services, and take my word, for the past 23 years, I haven't met any politician or so-called administrator or civil servant that had any interest, to make sure that this department worked towards its mandate, and that is to correct, to educate, to train, to give skills, so that we get to this rehabilitation buzzword, and thereafter people get reintegrated. And when they are integrated, they must be law-abiding citizens who are productive and useful, and you monitor them before they get lost in the system. You evaluate them, and you make sure that whatever was invested whilst the person is in prison doesn't get lost and fall along the wayside. Lack of community involvement in the system, correctional services system, we now and then call it corruptional services system. The lack of community involvement, in fact, results, this is a byproduct of a system that has never worked. I mean, maybe it worked a little bit here and there during the heydays of apartheid, because there was a little bit of discipline, and you could see.
But Mr. Budu, I mean, it's very little comfort. I mean, your reaction to the sentence, that of 4 life terms and 6 years running concurrently, would you agree with this, considering Mr. Wilson had been out on bail when he committed this heinous crime?
Well, I don't. Well, maybe he also belonged to a certain prison gang, because where he is, gangsters in and out of the system is the same thing, and people get failed by the system for the wrong or the right reason, and we, from where I'm sitting, point the finger to the Department of Correctional Services, because it is a school where people go in as petty offenders and come out vicious and very, very dangerous criminals.
All right, let's get a reaction from Palesa Mpampa. She's legal and advisory manager for People Opposing Women Abuse. What's your reaction to what Mr. Miles Budu is saying, that the system is to blame, that people go in there for petty crime and come out hardened criminals, and this might be the case in point with Cameron Wilson?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you please tell us women?
Yeah, just come closer to the speaker. We can't hear you.
Yes.
Mr. Miles Budu is of the view that the correctional services system failed in this regard by not adequately rehabilitating the convicted murderer Cameron Wilson. He was out on bail when he committed the crime of killing Lakita Moore. What's your view?
Thank you very much. From us as women's sector, I think our concern is really that in as much as he could be taken in terms of rehabilitation, I think for us, what we have seen different from, I think, this case is that most of the cases, because from a community point of view, we want sentences that really deter potential perpetrators. So I think this one, the current judgment on Wilson's case is really a good judgment, progressive, but I think in most of the cases where we have seen murder cases, we have not seen really the law deterring potential perpetrators because we are still seeing them happening oftentimes because most of the times you find they are always most of the times below minimum sentence.
Yeah, please stay on the line, Mr. Pampa. We also have Mr. Okonkwo in the studio. Would you think that this is a deterrent to any other potential murderers of that of having essentially your natural life behind bars?
Yes, to a large extent, I would support that to be a yes. Reason being that 60 years out 71 years to run concurrently. Practically, how old is he now? 20? If he walks through or he's able to turn around inside the jail and gets presidential pardon, which is unlikely, then it serves as a pure deterrence to others, knowing that this could come their way if they continue in this route. The essence of punitive judgments ruled against people who commit heinous crimes like murder intentionally. Unfortunately, South Africa do not have the death penalty like you would have in the US. Okay. Therefore, putting you away plus or minus to a lifetime serves as a pure deterrence for others to know that the law still works.
Yeah, well, the life, or rather death sentence had to be abolished when we adopted our democracy, and some people might argue that it might, there's a debate to be had whether it should be re-implemented or reinstated. Sheikh in Durban, good evening to you and thanks for calling. Hi, Sheikh.
To make my view known, ma'am, I've been to one of the prisons to visit prisoners. They are living a luxury life in prison. The system is not right. The system should be, all the prisoners should be given hard labor. They should work for their food. I've been visiting prisons. I've been to one where they're being fed custard and jelly for dessert. Now, do you give prisoners custard and jelly and roast beef? It doesn't make sense, ma'am. They'd rather be in than be out, because if they're outside, they've got no jobs, they've got no shelter. So they'd rather be in. So do crime, get in, eat your custard and jelly, ma'am.
Yeah, no, Sheikh, thank you so much. Mr. Buddha, your view and how, while you're fighting for the human rights of inmates or prisoners, that this encroaches also on the victims or even grieving families for them to find closure. We saw Mr. Cameron Wilson smiling and clapping when the judgment was handed down. Purely, it would seem like he's looking forward to going back to jail.
Well, most people who end up in prison come from environments where unemployment and unemployability is a pandemic, and adding to the stigma of being an ex-con does not enhance their job-finding potential. Well, a criminal record may serve as a legal barrier for many occupants or occupations and sector of the community. When work is available, it is often low. It is doesn't pay well. It is sporadic, and the tragedy is that people who come out of prison has got difficulty of being accepted by the community, and some of them, just go back to commit crimes so that they can go and get a roof over their head, some food to eat and clothes and so on. Or some of them just come out of prison, they abscond, they disappear, they become states of the missing people and go and sleep under the bridges, on the pavements and in the streets, and and it is all coming back to a system where this country could have done very well before they got captured, billions of rands are stolen to.
Yeah, but you seem more
projects.
sympathetic, Mr. Budu, and I suppose the organization that you represent is largely to fight for the rights of inmates and ex-convicts, etc., to be reinstated and rehabilitated. But there's an issue of being accountable for a crime that you commit. That we need not to overlook, that you have the choice. Anybody of a reasonable mind has the choice to decide or to act in a particular emotion or whatever the circumstances are. It cannot be condoned that, we're now making excuses, as it were, that, the environment breeds criminality and therefore those people must be excused.
Well, I've heard the song 111 times. You must recall that I've been singing the song for the past 27 years. There is no way that we as an organization are condoning crime and criminality. And in fact, the worst criminals have run this country into the ground. And I wonder what you guys are saying there, because the crimes that these criminals are committing are bloodless and they are as vicious as violent crimes and criminals, and they get away all along. What we are doing here as an organization, we are taking advantage of Section 35, subsection E, paragraph E of the Constitution of this country, where they say if you get arrested, you get charged, you get prosecuted, you go into a system, you must come out a better person and a reformed and a person who has been full of remorse. It does not happen. And we sit here and make a lot of noise, and the country is already a criminal state.
Just hold on, Mr. Okonkwo has got a response to that.
In respect to what you quoted, there is a clear evidence case in this singer, Nomvula. He went to jail, came back, chose to lead a better life. He's one of the respected songwriters. He's done his time. And so many others. The choice to go back to crime or not be rehabilitated through the system is entirely yours, just like every other individual. So quoting Section 35, paragraph EC of the Constitution of South Africa is right. The essence of going to prison is to be rehabilitated. That's a clear example.
Mr. Budu, in this case, that there are some who have come out and made a positive contribution to society. This is not the case with Mr. Wilson. And again, he seems quite overjoyed to be going back to prison. So it doesn't hold water that you can only blame the system, his circumstances, and everybody else around him. The responsibility still lies with the person who decided to premeditate, mutilate, stab an 18-year-old who had a prospect of a brighter life.
Well, look, we are not standing on his side. He must go and serve his sentence. He has committed a crime. I mean, he's going to be accountable whilst being locked up behind bars for many, many years to come. And he must learn that, if you commit a crime, there isn't a perfect crime, let alone a perfect murder. And this is what we're saying to this white-collar criminals, black-collar criminals, grey-collar criminals, and most of all, common law political criminals.
Yeah, but you're convoluting issues here. Let's just get a view from POA in that, when it comes to especially misogyny and the abuse against women, we see certain sectors, in this case, the Civic Rights Organization, now making excuses and wanting to blame all and sundry except what this person has done.
Thank you very much. I think from us, the basis is that we are concerned about, even besides the fact that they within longer sentences, they still get parole. Parole which doesn't even get them to actually pay or serve the sentence that is actually prescribed for them to actually feel the pain so much that at the end of the day, when they are released, they know what it means to have committed the offense and been sentenced at the end of the day. So I think from us, it could be that, like you're saying, that at times you find that personal circumstances that really would make one to not be that rehabilitated. But there are a lot of circumstances where you find people are sentenced for 15 or 20 years, but that is still not good enough. For us, we want them to get from 15 years to life imprisonment. Let them stay there. If you are not a dangerous person, you're proven to be dangerous, you don't deserve to go back to community. Because you have realized that even circumstances where they have not even getting good enough sentences, and other people that have not even started or committed crimes still commit crimes because they've seen people get away with the system. They get parole, they stay in prison for 6 or 5 years, they're out.
All right, but let's stay on the line. We have Tabiso calling from Everton. Good evening to you.
Evening, and all the viewers abroad. I just want to comment on that. He's still young anyway, and he's inexperienced in life, and he's not aware of the things he has done. And I think the sentence was enough. That's enough for him, because now he's 20, and by the time he's eligible for parole, he will be about 45. So he's going to spend all his 30s, 20s and 30s, and at the half of the 40s, then he will be eligible for release. So, looking at the way the judge sentenced him, again, I think the court considered, because if it was another judge, he was just going to give him that sentence the way it is, and not making them to run concurrently. And that was going to make it difficult for him to even being considered for parole while he's in prison. But like I said, this will serve as a deterrent.
Thabiso, thank you so much. So that it was a fair judgment, because the judge also had to take into consideration his harsh or depraved circumstances. Hi, Victor, calling us from Vosloorus. Hi. Hi, Victor.
How are you?
I'm good. How are
evening.
you? Good evening.
I'm fine. I just want to comment on this issue here. What is that man is representing the image? I think it's right. You know, when you go to jail, you commit a crime, you go to jail, and then you say there is to correct the people, but you come out like like this guy here. He's clapping their hands. He's like he's enjoying. He's not enjoying that guy. That guy it's like he's showing his gang member, but inside his head, he's not happy. He's feeling what he's having. But what I wanted to say is this: if you go to jail, there's a school there. I'm a former prisoner, but now I'm doing all right. I went out from 2006. Now I'm doing I got my own company now. What I see in jail is a school. If the system can force these people to go in school to do something right, but they leaving them, joining the gang, the prison white themselves, they're taking money from these guys here. You understand? It's a crime inside with the police. They're buying in the meat there. They're doing this like the other people say it's like that. So the system really is failing the people outside. If you give this, like this guy, he's sentenced for 20 years. Give this guy a school. When he come back, he won't be will be get a pencil. But if you sit there, when he come outside, what is going to do?
All right, Victor.
To get the money to do a crime.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can we really blame the shortfall or comings within the system, that of corruption, or the fact that gangs are allowed to reign free, if you like, in the prison system, for the lack of rehabilitation?
I would look at it from a different perspective. Before we came to our young democracy, globally, this has all been going on, is a global issue. So the tendency or the question of, the system letting people down as a result of lack of checks, proper checks amongst these inmates, is a society thing. We look at to which degree we are looking at. So if we are saying that the system is failing us, there should be a proposal on better ways to handle this and make sure that the system is not failing us. Right now, there are a lot of issues. If you look at the judgment against Oscar Pistorius, was he fair? Was he harsh? Does he serve as a deterrent, or does he promote crime? I would say that that sentence is very, very, very lenient. He's supposed to serve the full wrath of the law. So what are we saying here? These institutions are made by man. Enforcing it is also left for men to handle it, so that the essence of the process will run its full efficacy to achieve the desired result.
No, we appreciate your views, Mr. Okonkwo. Just last words, Palesa, I suppose also a message of support to the victims' families, those who have lost loved ones through a brutal crime, and where they can get assistance.
Thank you very much. From the side of Power, we offer services to survivors of violence against women, even the families, in terms of counseling for their bereavement time. We offer our services at 011-42-4345, and we're also available at info@power.co.za. You can also access us through our services through our website, www.power.co.za. And you can also access our services across Gauteng in our 6 offices: Berea, Soweto, Fosoras, Katlehong, Tembisa. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. In studio, joined by Noara Okonkwo, a legal expert. Palesa Mpama, or rather Mpapa, is a legal and advisor for Power, and Golden Miles Budu, national spokesperson for the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. And thanks for calling in. We take a quick ad break. See you shortly.